Now that we are nearing the end of February, I am so excited to start project planning for the rest of 26. Oh my goodness. So last year, it was really on my list to finish up a lot of whips and UFOs that had been lingering for ages, as well as dive into stash and get that kind of stash down a little bit. It's never really been my goal to get to like zero stash, but especially with the purchasing that I did last year, I have so many projects that I want to do, and I already have the yarn assigned to it. And I'll show you in a little bit what I did to my yarn stash while I was packing up to make it easier to work through the things that I already have. Now, unfortunately, it's continued to rain, and so I haven't been able to pull my stash out of where it's being stored right now in the barn. I have 2 tubs. One is open, so it's being stored in like a covered space, like a enclosed space. And then the other one I managed to like pack into a bin that had a lid. And I don't know where that one is. Like, I know where it is, but it's going to require some digging to get to it. So I'll show all of that to you guys later, but I'm going to start with like my initial planning piece. Of course, I needed a new notebook, and I'm so upset because, again, after all of the consolidating and decluttering that I did in preparation for packing or while I was packing, I have a really nice curated collection of notebooks. And I actually have in my mind like which notebook I want to use. It's a kind of a fancy composition notebook, like a recycled paper. And of course, it's in a box somewhere in the barn, and I can't dismantle the barn to get my office supplies out because it's raining and everything is soggy and it won't stop precipitating. I just need it to dry out a little bit. It is warm today though, so maybe over the next week or two, things will start evaporating and I can actually get into my stuff, right? But not an option right now. So I did stop by the store. This is not what I was going for. I do love the Moleskine notebooks. They're just so dang expensive, but none of the other notebooks really like struck my fancy. Funny thing is, they had one sale tag for the notebooks being 30% off, but it didn't say. Usually when they have like just the one tag and it's not the entire shelf, it's only one particular color that they're trying to get rid of. But the way they had sliced the tag, I couldn't see what color it was, and it looked like it was the purple notebook next to this one, but I'm like, I'm going with chartreuse. Like, we need to be easy to find, happy and perky, and something fun to work in. And since I couldn't find a different notebook that was fun, we just had to go for a fun color. Got up to the register. This was not 30% off. It was 50% off. I'm so excited about having the nice notebook, and it was even cheaper than the sale price that I thought it was. So, still not a cheap notebook, but cheaper than what it normally is. And then I picked up some new Sharpie pens because, of course, all of my pens are also in a random storage box, same place as my notebooks. So I got new ones. But I'm always going through these, so I'm not feeling guilty about that at all. So I have a place to record all of my thoughts. I thought about doing it on the computer, but I feel like it's just a pain to drag out the computer, and I'm not going to use it as much as I would a physical notebook. So excited about that. So now that I have my snazzy new notebook all ready to go, the next thing that I want to do is go ahead and update my favorites in Ravelry so that I have everything in one place. I have a really big tendency when I see people post pictures of either projects that they've made or new patterns that have come out. And what I'll do, especially if it's on Instagram, is I'll just take a screenshot of it on my phone. Or if I'm in a yarn store and they have a sample I really like, I'll take a picture of the tag. And so what happens is I end up with all of these really fun projects sitting in my photos on my phone. So what I want to do is take some time to scroll back and all the projects that I'm still interested in, go ahead and save it in my favorites on Ravelry. Part of my problem too is that sometimes if I like click on a link and I open Ravelry on my phone, I have 2 Ravelry accounts. One that's like my personal one that I've had for ages, and then the one for Dirt Floor Fibers that I've started that I want to be a little bit more curated. However, sometimes I forget to look at which one I'm hitting favorites on, and so I end up with these random favorites under both accounts. So I really want to go ahead and make sure all of my favorites are on my personal account. And then I want to go back and separate everything more into lists. I'm so sorry, my voice keeps cracking and there's nothing I can do about it. I think it's all the moisture outside. Anyway, and then I want to go into my Dirt Floor Fibers one, and I want to put it together some more bundles because I have some certain categories of patterns that I'm collecting, and I think it'll be easier to assign for projects that don't already have for yarn. There we go. For yarn that doesn't already have a project assigned to it, I think it'll be a lot easier if I can separate some of my favorite patterns into, like, I already have one for like fingering weight 1 skeins, but perhaps having a 2 skein or a 2 color project kind of bundle, or for my bulky yarns or for my hand spun, things like that. So I'm gonna go through and do a little organizing on Ravelry, and then that way, when it's time to get out my notebook to do the official inventory and planning, I have it all ready to go. I didn't realize until I dropped my video in that it didn't voice record when I was doing my screen recording. So I have absolutely no idea what I was saying here, but you can basically see what my favorites page looks like in Ravelry. Again, Dirt Floor Fibers. I have all of my bundles organized. I already had some bundles, like my 2025 knitting plans or my Advent plans, or patterns rather. But now I have a lot more. So I've got it separated into things like brioche or hats or worsted weight accessories or socks. So I'm hoping that not only is it a lot easier for me to find a project, whether it's a project I already have assigned to a bundle of yarn, or if I have a certain type of yarn and I'm looking for a project, I should be able to go in here really quickly. Or the other plus side, if I'm at like a fiber festival and I find something to die for, I can go right into here and pick a category that would be suitable for that type of yarn, and it's all right there ready to scan through, which will take so much less time than trying to search through like the 400 things I have liked on Ravelry. And just in case you've never used favorites or bundles on Ravelry, I'm going to add the Something Cozy sweater, which is another one that needs to go into a category. So I pulled it up, you click on it, and then you go over to Save in Favorites, and you can add a new category at the top for a new bundle, or you can pick from the ones that are already there. And in this case, I want to go both the boucle and the sweaters section. You hit Save, and you are all set and ready to go. So the next step in the process is to actually go ahead and pull out the yarn stash, get everything inventoried. I think having it all in one place on paper right in front of me is going to make it so much easier to actually plan for this year and figure out how I'm going to use the unassigned skeins, all of that good stuff. But I have a couple of challenges. Number one, I have multiple yarn stashes, which I'll give you more details about that in a little bit. But also, with all of my stuff still like in storage, I also don't have access to all of my stuff, but I'll show you what we got. So as I was packing, I did have a system for taking care of some of my yarn stash, and I have just also continued to like just throw things on the top as I've gotten it. But I have this bin here, which I feel like as I was packing, I came across an extra like bin lid, and I was like, I have no idea where the bin for this is. I think it belonged to this one, and I think I got rid of it because I couldn't figure it out. So we are lidless unless I come across something else, but here's one of them. I knew I had this one here. Back in the corner, which I can't get back in here right now because we've had so much rain that the field that I'm standing in right now is so mucky that like my boots are all covered in mud. I don't know how I'm gonna get in the other part of the barn, but I don't want to like trample all over my stuff just to get back to that corner. But all of my like advent calendars are back there, which I think I know off the top of my head how many I have. So I can put those details in without actually having to have the actual box. I am going to take like all of these like binny things out, but I do have one more tub like this as part of like the main yarn stash, like my good yarn. Again, I'll tell you about the difference later. But the problem with that is, so this is where most of the rest of my stuff is being stored, like minus my furniture. All my furniture is in my pod, but this is like my stuff. And I think because it has an open bottom, right? So it's just on like the grass and dirt and whatever, that I had a couple of the like Rubbermaid tubs or hefty tubs, or it doesn't really matter. The plastic tubs, you know what I'm talking about. And I think I used them in like the back corners to like start stacking the boxes on, like my paper boxes, because I figured that those back corners were going to be the most susceptible to moisture because it wasn't as accessible, even though I have everything on tarps, and because it's on an outside edge where like the rain is going to be coming off of the roof. And so I have a feeling that my other bin of yarn stash are in those back corners. But I'm going to take a peek just to make sure I didn't like think ahead and put it up front somewhere. All right, so I'm so sorry if you can hear the hazards beeping in the background, but I'm pulled over on the side of the road right now because I obviously can't pull into the field with all the mud, and I don't want to turn those off until we are actually on our way. But I managed to make 2 treks from the barn back to the truck. We did not sacrifice any skeins of yarn to the mud gods. Thank you so much. I will make it up to you in another fashion. Oh my gosh, you know the mud is bad when the deer tracks show them sinking up to like their ankles. Oh my gosh. I ended up taking off my boots so I can walk into my shed because there were a few other things that I wanted to grab as well. I ended up grabbing another bag of yarn. So I took a few skeins of yarn out of my hat yarn bag from last video and just stashed those in the car. I'll put them back in that bag. But I traded that big blue bag for some plushie yarn, so then that way I could just have some plushies made as well, fingers crossed, by second Sunday. And I'm hoping this clears up a little bit because the thought of having to drag my tent and my table and all of my display items all the way out from the barn that's way over there out to the road, it just makes me like want to cry. And the fact that I'm going to have to dig some of my stuff out, but it's hard to dig it out when everything's, I don't have a place to put any of the items I take out to get to this stuff. Anyways, it's a mess. It's a mess. Just trust me on that. But I did manage to get out my main stash of yarn that I already showed you. I had a few projects, like some whips in project bags. I grabbed those too because they were kind of on top. And then I could not find that other bin. They must be in the back corners and there's just no way I can get to it because if I were to start pulling stuff out, it's going to get muddy. Even if I try to put it on a tarp, it's just not going to work. Anyway, I think that's everything I grabbed. We gotta go get hay now while it's kind of sunny and not raining because the sheep want some dry hay. All right, so I don't even know if you can hear anything or see anything. The sun is right over here and it is blinding me because it is a gorgeous afternoon. It's like 55. I'm like sweating. This is great. Spring is here, right? Everything's gonna dry out and it's gonna not rain tomorrow, right? It's only a 99% chance. It can change, right? Chances are slim, but that will give me plenty of inside time tomorrow to actually work on some projects. Okay, notebook. In addition to playing with Ravelry yesterday, I also spent some time getting my notebook set up. So I did it a little bullet journal-esque, and I've left myself some pages at the front so that I could have a nice table of contents in it. And so I've got project planning and stash tracking, which of course our first entry is going to be our 2025 finished objects and any lingering whips. Here is my first page, which I am so excited about. So I think last year, even though I lost steam partway through the year, I don't think I have ever finished this many projects inside of a year before. I am so excited. So I went down through my Ravelry pages, which by the way, starting to track my projects last year in Ravelry, 10 out of 10, highly recommend. It was really easy to filter by the year completed, and so it was quite the put up to see what I actually got done because I don't feel like last year was very productive at all. However, I did finish 13 projects. So I went through and I wrote down the projects. I wrote down what type of project it was. Was it a cowl? Was it a sweater? Whatever. Did it come from stash or was it a fresh purchase for the project? And was it a new cast on or was it a lingering whip? So of my projects, again, if you want to check out the individual projects, go over to my Ravelry page. It's under Dirt Floor Fibers. But I finished 3 cowls, which were the Drift, the Beginner's Brioche. Well, it was a Beginner's Brioche scarf, but I made it into like a double loop infinity cowl, which 10 out of 10, really liked that. And then what was my other cowl? Oh, my Kuma cowl. So I finished those 3. I did 4 hats. So I did 2 of the Musselburgh hats. I did the Harlow flip, and then I also did the Dancing Waters hat. That one was actually a market prep, which I don't normally include market prep stuff like in my project tracking, so I feel like that's like a separate entity, but it's the first time I ever tried that project, and it does have a pattern on Ravelry, so I wanted you guys to have access to it in case you wanted it. It's in Malabrigo Rasta, and so it works up really fast, and they're super cute. I think I like actually made 3 or 4 of those hats for market, but I'm only counting it once because it was only like a me project one time. So, and then I did 5 shawls, which were the Merfolk Fade, For Granny, Cold Breeze, Christmas Sampler, and Painted Pebbles. And then I did 1 sweater, which was my worsted boxy. Now, of those, 9 projects were from yarn I already had. 1 was from hand spun, which I was really, really excited about. It was also hand spun I already had, but I counted that separately. And then 3 of them were new purchases. 7 were new cast-ons, and 6 of them were lingering whips. So even though I feel like I could have been more productive last year, I'm really, really happy by this list. It just gives me a baseline and something that I can beat this year, right? I'm really competitive, if you haven't noticed this already. But that does mean that we have some whips that are lingering into this next year. This is not every UFO hibernating whip that I have. There's a bunch more of them. If you've been around, well, I don't remember if I put them in my packing videos. I know I've gone through them before. There's more. They exist, but I feel like these are the main ones that I'm still really excited about finishing up right now. And I'm okay with those other whips hibernating for a little bit until I get more excited about them again. But the ones that I have on the needles right now that I'm hoping to finish up this year, my first one is my Ostara cardigan, which I'm laughing so hard. I pulled it out of the bag and I was looking at it and I'm like, you know, I still love the yarn and everything, but it doesn't look that good. Like, I don't remember it looking like this. And then I realized I was looking at the wrong side. With the light, I don't know if you can see this. Try to like get you in shadow here. Look how yummy this stitch is. And the yarn, I am still loving it. If you remember, this is from Primrose Yarn Company, and it's their replay yarn, which it's made kind of in limited batches because it's from like mill cast-offs, and so they're all different and they're all small batch. I absolutely, it's covered in hair, I'm so sorry. I love this one I picked out. It from far away is just like a really like grandpa brown, perfect for a cardigan. But then up close it has all these little pops of a really bright neon kind of green color, which last year I was having a little bit of a craving, if you will, for a neon pop, and so this was satisfying it in the moment. I actually, in my head, thought I only had like this much of the back done. I didn't realize I had this much done. I think I'm actually to the point, I think I stopped when I need to divide off to pick up like the edge and start doing like the front of the cardigan. I feel like that's where I left off. I think I set it to the side for a purpose. So that's what I have done so far. So I'm really excited to get going on this again. We're gonna be finishing it right like at the wrong time of year, but that's okay because it'll be ready to go for next fall and winter. Then one that's been lingering even longer is the, hold on, I lost my page, I'm so sorry, is the Washed Out shawl by Joji Locatelli. And I am so excited about this one too. I've been working on it forever, it feels like. I can't even tell if it's the right side. Oh no. Which side's cuter? I can't tell. I could probably tell if I can like actually see anything, but I can't. So I have finished all of this. And then I've got just a little bit more to go on the stripe section. Maybe. I think I'm getting ready to hit the finishing section, which is some lace work, which I'm really excited about. Oh, I am so close. But because it's getting bigger, every row is a little longer. And so it feels like it's taking forever. But I haven't worked on this in ages. I love this yarn. I don't have the tags for it. If you go on my Ravelry project page, you can see all the details. But it's Fiber Optics, and I think it's their merino cashmere nylon mix. It is such a nice yarn. I am absolutely loving this. So that one's still lingering. We have to finish this one up this year just because we have to. There's just no question about that. Then I also have my Archivist socks that I started in July last year for sock week. I'm down to the heel. I can't find it. Like, I really thought when I grabbed this project bag today, I thought this is what the socks were in, but it's not. It's in, oh, I can't even visualize it. It's in like a plain like tan sack. I feel like it has something on it, but I have a book tucked in there. I've got like a bunch of other stuff, and I know I saw it when I was packing, and so I thought it was with all of my other whips, but it's not. So I don't know where it is. It has to be somewhere logical, so we're gonna have to dig around for that. But I have a pair of socks. And by pair of socks, I mean half of one sock. And then I have 2 Advent projects from last year. This is the Snowdrop shawl, and I'm using the Dragon Horde Advent calendar. I've just gotten up to I've done 2 colors. I'm on the middle of the 3rd color, just gotten up to where the pattern starts, which is why I stopped there. I really want to finish this up. And then my other Advent project is so close. This is the Pretty Please scarf that I keep showing you guys, and it finally feels like it's starting to grow. So here is my cast on edge. Look at how pretty that fades. Like, it is so gorgeous. It's hard to tell out here in this light because it looks kind of yellow the whole way, but it fades to like this peachy pink and into the purples. We're gonna be getting into the blues next. Ugh. And it is so like thick and squishy. I have some notes on some things that I would do differently next time if you check out my project page again. And also when I get it finished, I'll give you all those details in a video as well. But I have the 2 colors that are currently attached. Okay. I think I have 7 more colors that haven't been started yet. And it's the 21st of February. If I can get this finished today, get halfway through another color, then tomorrow do another color and a half. I think if I then do 1 color a day, I should be able to finish this project by the end of February, and I would be so happy to get that done. I am so excited to get that finished. I just absolutely adore the project, but like, it's time to move on now. And then my last whip that is hanging out, which one I feel a little guilty about, I was doing a test knit for Alicia Plummer, something like that. Again, everything's kind of linked. And these are her Waiststone. Oh gosh, sorry. You guys did a little bit of acrobatics there. I hope you didn't get too nauseous or anything. It's really breezy out here, and you are currently like attached to the side of my truck, and that tripod is not super sturdy, so you went flying. I hope you're okay. Anyway, these are the Waiststone mitts, or Waiststone light mitts. I'm not really sure. I just wrote down Waiststone mitts, but I feel like the word light is in there somewhere. And again, in the light, it's kind of hard to show you. Try to block some of that out. Look at how pretty and squishy that is. It's half brioche, super easy in the round. I'm up to the point where I'm working on like the top cuff, and then I just have to go back and do the thumb and then do the other hand. This one is the right mitt, I think. Oh gosh, let's see if we can get it on. I accidentally did them one size too small, because if you go back and you watch the did I end up posting that one? I can't even remember if I ended up posting the Vlogmas where I was working on them. But there's a little bit of confusion with the sizes. And so I erred on the side of caution and cast on one size smaller than I thought I needed. I cast on the small instead of the medium, which it fits, but it's a little smaller than I would like. I think I'll be able to tell for sure once I get it all finished. But I love how, again, I don't know if you can see with the way the sun is, but there's this little bit of detail where it like widens over your thumb, and it's just super nice. And I'm loving this yarn as well. All right, so those are all of my lingering projects. Now we have to inventory everything else. Now, because I'm a little bit of a weird special case, I actually have my stash divided into several categories. I'm not really worried about all of them right now, mostly because I don't have access to them, so I can't be worried about it. But in general, I have my undyed yarn that is waiting to be dyed. I don't have a kitchen right now. It's all in deep storage. I have no idea where it is. It's just boxed up. So I have that stuff. I also have a selection of like commercial yarns that I got ages ago that I'm not really using anymore. But I unearthed a lot of it when I was packing to move. And it's still good stuff. Like, it's like I kept all of the high quality commercial stuff. And I really want to use that up for projects for market. Now, I might eventually end up just destashing it because it's still good. Somebody else could use it. And I have so much yarn that it could take me lifetimes to actually work all the way through it. But for right now, it's kind of slumbering in boxes as well. It's not even in one box because I kept finding more in different places. And so it's all over the place. I also have my fiber stash for spinning, both dyed and undyed. So I have two categories kind of there as well, but I'm lumping all my fiber together as one. Not to even mention all of my fleeces that are still, some of them need to be processed, like washed and all cleaned and brushed and all of that. And then some of them just need to be spun up. I have all the fleeces. So that's also in the fiber category. Then I also have my market yarns, which are all of like my polyester yarns for plushie making. Tons of that. Not worrying about taking an inventory of that, but I do want to work through all of that this year. That is definitely on our agenda to completely work through the plushie yarn stash. We'll see how well we do, but we'll worry about that later. Again, half of it's packed away and I don't have access to it. Then I have my like deep stash. This is like the nice hand-dyed, fun fiber sorts of things that I've collected over the years. A lot of stuff in this like deep stash, as I'm calling it, are things that I got a really long time ago that I still really like. So I went through it kind of sort of, not as well as I should have when I was packing it up, but I'm still really excited about the yarns and the colors and the bases. Just, I've like forgotten what projects they were attached to, or like they were a project and I ended up like frogging the project or something happened to it. So there's just all kinds of this nice yarn and stash, but it's not stuff that I have assigned to a project that I want to work on right now. That's mostly all in one place. There might be a few little hints and pieces of it spread around in different boxes, but that's kind of all together by itself. And then I have all my fresh yarn. This is all stuff that's been acquired in just the last few years. Most of it has a project attached for it, or it has like some sort of like purpose in my mind. Like I might not know the exact project, but I know I want to make a pair of socks out of it, or I know I want to make a one color shawl out of it, or something like that. I decided to try something a little bit different as I was packing up. I don't know if I recommend this for everybody else, but I will let you know throughout the year how it goes. So like I said earlier, I actually have 2 bins that have the current stash in it, like the fresh stuff. I can't find the other bin. It's buried somewhere in my barn, but we'll go ahead and inventory the first bin, and that will give us a good place to start, because even here there's like a year's worth of yarn that I could use, so I'm not worried about running out of yarn. The one thing I'm not worried about is running out of yarn. Part of the question though on how to inventory this is how to inventory this, right? It's how to figure out how I want to categorize it. So what I was debating is whether I should try to put it into categories, like put all of my blanket yarn together, put all of my sweater quantities together, put all of my sock sets together. But some of the sock sets I want to use for shawls, not socks. Or I might have some single skeins that I don't know exactly which project I want to use for yet. So I don't know if it's better off to have just like a column where I list the yarn and then maybe put the project next to it instead of putting it in categories. I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to play around with it a little bit, and when I make a decision, I'll put it in my notebook and I'll show you. But basically, I have all of my yarn that was acquired pre-moving in separate containers. I'm looking at this, and there's definitely stuff that I got after I was out of the house, or like while I was in the process of getting out of the house. So it's not 100% perfect. But I like being able to keep it together in one spot. Not all of this is wound up either. So like this was supposed to be my Christmas Eve cast on, and then I forgot about it. And then it was supposed to be my New Year's cast on, and I forgot about it. But I found it in kind of my whip stash pile. So I'm like, I definitely want to work on that. But this is a cowl pattern. It's the Nightfall Cowl, and it's a free pattern, and the yarn is from Madeline Tosh. It's their ASAP. This is actually their super skein in the color Q the Waltz. This was the same yarn that I did last year's Christmas cast on, which was that really pretty like speckled cowl. That came, I think, with 2 skeins, 2 or 3 skeins. I think it was 2 skeins. And I guess I didn't realize that like this one only came with 1, but this is a super skein rather than the regular skein. And so it has 190 yards and 275 grams. So it's like twice the size, or like 1.5 the size of the regular ASAP skeins. So I don't know how big it's going to be. We'll figure that out at the end. But I have that in its separate bag. Eventually I'll wind that up when I'm ready to actually work on it. I just never got around to it because I forgot about it. But it's in its own bag right here. Then I have my Wednesday club from, is this Freckled Wednesday, I think? Yeah, Freckled Wednesday. I was a little disappointed by this because I had missed the first 2 months by the time I realized that like it was a thing that existed and I wanted it. And they had some, at least of one of the months, they had extras dyed up. But I was like, no, I'm not going to order it because it's a 12-month subscription. So if I skip the first 2 months, then I'll still have 10 months of yarn. So that's 10 main skeins and 10 minis. And so like that would be like plenty for a blanket. I had a few fun different ideas in mind. But unfortunately, Freckled Wednesday decided to discontinue the club after 6 months. And so I just have the 4, which is fine. It's not the end of the world. The colors are absolutely gorgeous. I don't normally do a lot with self-striping yarn because I'm normally not a fan. But I got these on purpose just to play with, to see like what we could do with self-striping skeins that weren't just a pair of socks. So those I'm just keeping in their bags. This, if you remember, I did a video when they had the Yarny Mammoth trunk show at Dances with Wool. I picked those up. Did not get a chance to skein them up. So they're just kind of thrown on top because that was done like after I did all my moving. I have a random ball of yarn. I got this from one of the craft shows I went to. It's hand spun and hand dyed from one of the ladies who works in our weaving shop at Colonial Williamsburg. And it's absolutely gorgeous. I had balled it up because I thought I was going to get started on a pair of mitts. I actually wanted to use it for my waiststone mitts, but it was too heavy of a weight. Now I'm wondering if it might have actually worked. I don't know, but it's absolutely gorgeous. I don't have a project yet for this, but it's definitely in stash. And then I had just a few skeins of this that I got from like the end of year sale from Hue Loco. Not this year, but the year before. And it's their one pot mashups. Their one pot mashups are 4 sets of 50, so they're actually 200 grams. And then they're just wound together, so it looks like one skein, but it's actually 4 skeins. And I wasn't sure how to cake it up in a way that made sense, so I just left them whole for right now. But then we start getting all of these other bags. And basically all of these have some sort of project in mind, or they're a set that go together or whatever. And actually looking at these, some of these I can't remember what they're for anymore. So I'm really gonna have to look, but they all have their tags inside, so I know exactly what they are. But my idea was then this way, it was really easy when I was ready to start a new project, rather than going down a rabbit hole of finding a new pattern and buying new yarn or doing something like that, that I would just grab the bag, already had the project attached to it, and I would just get started. They're all caked up and all ready to go. So there'd be just no question, nothing standing in the way of starting a project. So I've done that for all of these. These are sweater quantities in this bag. I think I have, or not sweater quantity, a blanket quantity. And then I think I have one more blanket quantity stuck in here too. But that's what all of my current yarn stash kind of looks like. Again, spread across 2 different containers, only one of which I can actually find at the moment. So what I'm gonna do, I've got to get into work. We're getting a little late. But when I get a chance, probably tomorrow, maybe while it's raining outside, I can sit down and actually get everything inventoried into my notebook, and then we'll do a little recap and see what projects we want to start first and what our goals are for the rest of the year. It took an entire episode of The Space Maker on YouTube, highly recommend by the way, and like half a cup of coffee in order to finish inventorying this giant container over here. So we're doing great. What I did, there's a lot of yarn in here, I'm gonna cry. So my little notebook, I started a new page with the 2026 main stash inventory, not to be confused with all of my other stashes, the main stash inventory. I did not put in any of my whip yarn except for my Pretty Please scarf, because I wasn't sure how many skeins I had. I didn't want to dig everything out. But everything else from that bin is in here. It took me 2 pages, and it's just this one bin. That doesn't include the yarn that I'm still waiting to come in the mail. I have something coming in the mail. And then also that other bin of main stash yarn, and then any other main stash yarn that I've forgotten about, or any main stash yarn that I acquire in 2026. So I'm not sure entirely how many pages I should skip. We'll figure that out later. But how I ended up doing it is I made a column for the type of yarn, and I didn't get really specific because I know what's in here. And so I gave myself just enough notes for me to identify which bundle it is, which again, like, I have everything bundled together. So this is my Getty Tea yarn. And so I only put in the Merhair yarn, even though this is not Merhair, but I counted it as a full 5 skeins, even though it's not 5 skeins of Merhair, because I know what it is. It doesn't matter that much to me. All I'm doing is tracking like overall. So that's the yarn, and I did a little checkbox for when I finish it. And then I didn't make a separate column, but I should have. So I just added it kind of like in the middle, although it's all wiggly. So I kind of regret not having a separate column, but it's the weight. So bulky, fingering, worsted, sport, DK, lace, all right there. And then the number of skeins, and where I had like a sock set, I did 1F, 1M, so 1 full, 1 mini, or these have 2 minis, just so it's all right there. And then if I already had a project in mind, I wrote down the project. And then some of these, it's more like I kind of sort of know what I want to do, but I haven't like fully committed to a project yet. So I didn't write it down. And even these where I have kind of committed to a project, I reserve the right to change my mind. I don't actually have to complete these projects. I can pick a different one, we'll cross it out, and it'll be fine. And then the type of project. So I can look at it real quickly, how many sweaters, how many blankets, how many scarves, all of that. I thought I had more stuff in this bin, so I was really excited to be able to like, I have projects for 8 hats and 3 blankets and 12 sweaters, or whatever it happens to be. I hope it's not 12 sweaters. It's a lot of sweaters. But there must be a lot of stuff in that other bin because there are a lot of projects that are missing out of here. So that's where we're sitting. Got it all inventoried, and I did some adding on my scrap of paper. So there are 25 bundles. It could be a single skein, it could be 15 skeins for a blanket, but there are 25 project entities. I will put a little caveat that I did, oh my gosh, that was bugging me, I'm so sorry. My mashups, I know I've got one right here on top. Oh my goodness, here it is. So these are the Hue Loco 1-pot mashups that I showed you. I took one out, and there are 4 50-gram skeins inside of one of these. So I counted each one of these as 2 skeins of yarn because it's 200 grams, but I counted all 3 of these together as one bundle because originally I was thinking of doing a big project using maybe 6 skeins of yarn if I used all of them. So I'm trying not to overthink it. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to be done. So all 3 of these count as one bundle, but there's actually 6 6 skeins of yarn, 12 50-gram skeins, if that makes sense. All right, so weight-wise, that includes 1 bulky, 1 worsted bundle, 3 DK, 1 sport, 17 fingering, and 1 lace. 69 full skeins of yarn. Again, each mashup is counting as 2 skeins. 10 minis, and of those, 8 of these are sock sets. You may have realized that I have forgotten something. But Kim, what about your advents? I forgot my advents. Shh. So I went back and added those in, including the Pretty Please that I'm working on now. I have 7 advents that need to be used up. If you include in the blanket skeins that I ordered from Fiber Fox that haven't come in yet, that adds 13 full skeins and 156 minis. And that's just my first bin. Guys, we've got some work to do because, again, all of this stuff is stuff that I love and it's stuff that I want to turn into projects. It's also taking up a lot of space. And so I do want to be able to have some yarn out on display to be able to be like, oh, what do I want to make? Oh, I'm going to go pull this. But in order to really enjoy a stash where either like I'm finding a new project and then going to my stash and finding the yarn, or going out and buying the yarn and casting on right away, I have to get rid of this backlog. So our goal this year was not originally to like completely stash down. It was just to kind of get it under control and use some of it. We're going to see how much we can stash down this year. We'll think about what that looks like in a bit. All right, guys. So clearly I have some knitting to do, and so I will see you next time. Bye.